Hello, it's Trevor here again and welcome back to my First Class University channel. This video is all about avoiding plagiarism in your written university assignments. Plagiarism is whereby students cheat, and there's different forms of academic cheating when students are at university. The first type is where students accidentally or unintentionally plagiarize. They use other people's work and don't quite deal with that and handle it properly in their own written work, their own assignments and courseworks. The second type is where people take other people's work and they intentionally pass it off as their own, or at least they try to. This intentional or on purpose plagiarism is really a scourge, and it will be dealt with very, very seriously at most universities. There's also something called contract cheating, whereby students buy or purchase online essays or reports that they then use as their own work in their university courses. The fourth type is deception. So whereby one student will try and use the work from another person and pass it off as their own work. So this could take the form of asking your brother or your sister to write your assignment for you and you putting your name on that assignment and submitting it as yours. It could be getting someone else to sit an exam on your behalf. It could be where somebody has perhaps lent you their work. Perhaps another student in your class has given you their answers to that assignment to help you in your learning, and you've just basically copied it. I'm going to focus on the unintentional, the accidental plagiarism, because I see a lot of students do this unintentionally. Of course, it's not perhaps their fault, but there's some key things that you can do to help you avoid unintentional plagiarism. I'm not going to cover intentional plagiarism, I'm not going to cover contract cheating in this video, and I'm not going to cover deception either, because those are really, in my opinion as an academic, they're quite criminal activities. And you know if you're a moralistic person and you're doing the right thing, that those three types of plagiarism are downright wrong, and you will be punished as a result. There will be consequences. You'll probably be kicked out of the university if you do those things. So back to accidental or unintentional plagiarism. This often happens as a pure mistake because students don't quite understand how to avoid plagiarism in the first place. So let me tell you how to do that. To avoid unintentional plagiarism, this is whenever you use other people's work and accidentally pass it on as your own. So think about that. How can you avoid that? Well, the basic concept is really, really simple. Whenever you use other people's work, make a reference to it. So what is a reference? A reference is when you provide a sign in your work, a kind of signpost to the piece of work that you've used from somebody else. So if it's not yours, reference it. It's as simple as that. So whether it's a quote or a number of quotes, whether it's data, whether it's a figure, whether it's graphs, whether it's diagrams, whether it's a sentence, whether it's a whole paragraph, perhaps it's even an idea or a concept, perhaps you think it's kind of common knowledge, whatever that means. Some students tell me, oh, it's common knowledge, isn't it? I say, what does that really mean? I don't quite understand it myself. Whether it's something you've watched on the TV or from the internet, perhaps you've heard it on the radio, perhaps you've gone to YouTube and seen it in a movie there, perhaps you've gone on the internet and the source is a bit obscure. Well, that's not your work, is it? So if you are using any of that or parts of any of that, you need to signpost to your reader that you have used the work of others. So if it's not yours, reference it. So how do you do that? Well, in your assignment or in your report or in your essay that you have written, you will have your main text. So in that main text, you might like, for example, to quote Winston Churchill. Okay? So you want to use those few words from Winston Churchill because you think, oh, that really gets the idea over to the reader about what I'm trying to say here. Well, that's absolutely fine. It's okay to use other people's data or information or diagrams or graphs or whatever it is. But you need to put where you use that quote a citation in your main text. So it's like a little shorthand signpost to say, actually, that quote was from Winston Churchill in a speech he made in 1945. So that little citation is usually in Harvard format, if that's the format you're using on your course, would be the surname of the person whose information that is and the date that it was published, made publicly available. So in my case, I would say the quote, or rather write the quote in my essay, and I would put Churchill 1945 in smooth brackets right next to where that quotation is. That shows the reader that you've taken that quote from something that Churchill published in 1945. So you haven't really got much information in that short citation in your main text. So what you need to do is make a list of the full reference in a list of references at the end of your work. So after you've finished your essay, right at the end of that, you would have a heading, for example, list of references or just references or works cited. That's a common sort of American way of saying it. And those list of references list all the information that the reader needs in order for them to go and find that information that you've used. So for example, Churchill might have said that quote in 1945 in the House of Commons in London, and it's published in the House of Commons records of speeches in Hansard, it's called, in London in 1945. So you would have the author's full name of that work, so Churchill, W for Winston, Churchill W, full stop, comma, the year 1945, and then the other details in an order that is required using the reference system that your university wants you to use. So where I work, that is the Harvard referencing system. So there's a specific order of which information you would put in the references. And I would check with your university referencing guide, usually published by the university library, to help you with that. If you're unsure about the formatting of your referencing and which system to use, I would say just fall back to one and be consistent. So you might choose the Harvard system, for example, if you're in a science, mathematical, or sort of engineering, physics type subject. And so there's a Harvard guide published by the university you work in, or study in rather, and you would follow that format in the guide for providing that information. So the surname, the year, the title of the speech, the publication in which it is published, the volume and the number of that publication, and even the pages from which you've taken that quote would be the order of that reference if I was doing it in the Harvard style. But if you're doing courses like English or history or something more arts-based subjects, you probably won't be asked to use the Harvard system. So check with your lecturer, check with your professor, which is their preferred option, and follow the format. It's really, really easy. If you want to make it even easier, common word processing software, I use Microsoft Word, for example, has a system built in where I can build a database of my sources of information, and it will populate a list of references automatically for me at the end of the document. Some lecturers might want you to put the full reference in footnotes. That's okay. You're instead of doing a full list of references at the end of your work, you would just put the reference at the footnote of the page in which you have put the short version of the citation in your main text. But basically, as long as you have attempted to signpost in the main text what information you have taken from other people and used in your own work, and then somewhere, somehow, in some format, you have put in all the information that that reader needs to go away and find the information that you've used from somebody else, then that is what is required. So if it's not yours, reference it, and in your references you need a signpost where you've used that data and the full information for the reader to get that information if they need to go and find it themselves, just to check your work. So that's how to avoid plagiarism. If it's not yours, reference it and you'll be fine. Okay, thanks very much. Hope you found this useful. If you have, give me a thumbs up, give me a like in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel. I've got many other videos to help you with your studying at university. So thanks very much. Bye now.